A man was cleared of a murder after 33 years in prison. That's fucked up. For 4 decades, Keith Bush insisted he had been convicted as a teenager of a murder he never committed, which was strangling a 14-year girl in Bellport, New York. The police, he said, had beaten him and forced him to sign a confession that he never read. While he was imprisoned in jail, he had enlisted the help of a lawyer at Pace Law School, who sued to obtain records and unearth evidence showing Mr. Bush had not gotten a fair trial, even after he was released from state prison on parole. Keith Bush continued to fight to clear his name. On Wednesday morning, 44 years after his arrest, Bush was exonerated in Suffolk County District Court in Riverhead, Long Island. The Suffolk County District Attorney, Timothy Sinney, asked a judge to throw out the conviction, saying prosecutors never told the defense the police had interviewed another possible suspect. I cannot give you that which was taken from you in the 70s, but what I can restore to you today is your presumption of innocence. Judge Anthony Sent, I can't even say that last name, Senft is the judge's last name, told Bush. Bush, who's now 62, wore just a hint of a smile. I am truly humbled by this decision, he said. He told the judge he had lived a long time in pain. No one would listen, he said. No one would at least hear me out. Bush was only 17 years old in 1975 when he was charged with the murder of Cherise Watson, a teenager who would never returned home from a house party in Bellport, New York. She was found in a vacant lot, strangled and sexually abused. Bush was arrested 4 days later and signed a confession to the crime. At trial, the jury believed the confession, though he insisted from the outset it had been coerced. Another party girl who had testified she saw Bush leave with the victim that night recanted her testimony to hearing 5 years later, saying she had never even been to the party, but it did not lead to a new trial. In 2006, Bush wrote to Adele Bernhard, then a lawyer running a clinic at Pace Law School from the Greenhaven Correctional Facility in upstate New York. He said he was innocent, he said, and he hoped she would help him prove it. He had written similar letters to other lawyers. Miss Bernhard was interested in his case immediately, she said, after reading the statement he had signed. It was internally inconsistent, she said, the facts that they put in it. The words that they used, none of it rang true. His statement did not match forensic evidence about how the girl had died, she said. Miss Bernhard discovered that the DNA underneath the victim's fingernails did not match Bush had given in prison. She also re-interviewed the witness who had recanted her testimony about seeing Bush with Watson at the party. But a judge denied her 2008 motion to vacate the conviction and turned down her request for additional testing on clothes and other crime scene evidence. Miss Bernhard persevered over the next decade. She went back to key witnesses, analyzed fiber evidence, pored over the confession, and did more research on the decades on the detectives involved. She also filed a Freedom of Information Act lawsuit to obtain records for the case. Those records contained evidence that the police had another possible suspect for Miss Watson's murder, another young man at the party named John W. Jones. In a statement, Jones, who has since died, told the police he had stumbled over Miss Watson's body in the empty loft after leaving the party drunk, Mr. Sinney said. He also said a comb found next to her body looked like the one he had dropped. Bush's defense lawyer at the 1976 trial had never been told about Jones' statements, a clear violation of evidence rules. In 2018, Miss Bernhard took the records to Mr. Sinney, who had just been elected on a reform platform and had established a Conviction Integrity Bureau to review such cases. Mr. Sinney, who personally appeared in a court to ask the judge to vacate Bush's conviction, said the existence of an alternative suspect should have been disclosed before trial. He said the prosecutors had engaged in a deliberate cover-up. Mistakes happen in all aspects of our lives, he said at a news conference, but there was an intentional misconduct here. Mr. Sinney said his office's 9-month review of the case confirmed several other problems with the case. The key witness who recanted her testimony was never at the party, and Bush's description in his confession that he had stabbed Miss Watson with a knife or put a comb before she died did not fit the forensic evidence, because very little blood was found on her white sweater. One of the former detectives who obtained the confession had alluded to using coercive tactics, and another had been repeatedly cited for misconduct in other cases, Mr. Sinney said in the news release. At the end of the day, we came to some very simple conclusions, Mr. Sinney said. We don't believe Mr. Bush committed this murder. We believe Mr. Bush was denied a fair trial, and we believe that John Jones is a more probable suspect in this case. Bush was released from prison on parole in 2007. about a month before his 50th birthday and hit the register as an offender, he said. He served another year in 2013 on a parole violation for using a computer with an internet access. He got a job in Connecticut as a forklift operator and is now engaged to be married. When asked about how he controls his anger from all the time he lost in prison, he said he does not. You don't hold it back, you create outlets to release it, he said, and one of the greatest outlets is love. He added, when you love the people, when you have the love of the people that care about you, it enables you to release the pain. When asked whether he had ever considered giving up trying to clear his name, he answered with a straight face, "I don't know what that means." Basically, he was insistent that he would never give up.